guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So Dane Brugler was just on the Flight Plan podcast. I'll leave it linked, of course, down below in the description box, but he was talking Jets draft. He was talking quarterback prospects, who could come out, who could stay, things like that. So let's dive into kind of the main talking points here, in my opinion, the main key takeaways. And the first thing that really jumped out was, I think in his words exactly, this quarterback class is an interesting one, an interesting year. Because I think right now the consensus is Fernando Mendoza is QB1 at this point in time. I don't really see that changing, as the pre-draft process, ensues, right? Combine, private workouts, pro days, stuff like that. Chances where coaches and front office execs and general managers, owners even can sit down and meet with these prospects. I don't really see Mendoza's stock taking a hit. Like he's going to bomb the combine. He's going to bomb interviews. Just don't really see that. So I think it's pretty safe to say at this point in time, Mendoza's QB1. But after that, it's a bit of a question, right? We have Dante Moore in the mix. We have SImpson in the mix. A couple other guys, but it really feels like in the event that everybody were to come out, that would be kind of the layout at this point in time. Mendoza, Moore, Simpson. And the point that Dane was trying to make was, in regards to it being an interesting year, if Dante Moore, who is 20 years old, who has, sub 20, 25 starts in collegiate football right now, if he decides to go back to school where he's going to be, surrounded with talent at Oregon, he's going to be paid, he's going to have a great head coach that's going to keep them in the mix and be competitive, right? Look, Dante Moore's a fantastic quarterback, but Oregon and Lanning were fine without him. When Moore leaves, they'll be fine without him. But regardless, if Moore decides to go back to school, now all of a sudden that first overall pick becomes the price of it skyrockets. The value of that first overall pick skyrockets. He talked about the obvious, right? Which is what happens if the Cleveland Browns, a team that has 3 wins right now, you look at their slate, they still have to go to Cincinnati. They still have to play Pittsburgh, right? I think the Browns could very well go 0-4, 1-3 down the stretch here. He talked about, if the Browns get the number 1 overall pick, or the Raiders, right? The Raiders have 2 wins right now. If the season were to end today, they would have the 2nd overall pick. And you look at their slate, right? Factoring in the Geno Smith injury, they have to play the Eagles, they have to play the Broncos. Their schedule is very, very difficult. And they play the Giants. And you look at the team in the Giants right now, it's so easy to say, the Giants are going to have the first overall pick and the Jets can just trade up with them and it's going to be, quick and easy. But what happens if the Raiders lose to the Giants, right? This is a Giants team. Yes, they're losing a bunch of games, but they hung in with the Detroit Lions, right? That game went to overtime. They lost by 4 points to the Bears. They lost by 7 points to the Packers. Without Jackson Dart. They lost by 1 point to the Denver Broncos back in October. I think the Giants right now are a better football team than the Raiders. So if that's the case, and the Raiders go 0-4, losing to the Giants, they, theoretically speaking, right, strength of schedule is bit, that's not set in stone right now, but there's a very, very good chance that the Raiders could end up with that first overall pick. A team that does not have a long-term option at the quarterback position. In other words, if what Connor Hughes was reporting is true, which is the Jets traded Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams to acquire draft picks to trade up to the top of the draft, now that plan looks very, very, bleak, right? Because now good luck trying to convince the Browns, good luck trying to convince the Raiders to move out of that draft selection. So, again, I agree 100% with Dane here. Now, in regards specifically with Mendoza, because he went in depth with each QB prospect, Mendoza, Moore, and Simpson. Starting off first with, with Fernando here, he did say that he likes Mendoza a lot. He thinks that he definitely has the potential to be a top 12 quarterback in football. The question was posed, where does he maybe stack up to recent quarterbacks that came out? In Brugler's words, he didn't want to give a for sure, boom, this is my grade on him, and rightfully so, right? We still have college games and we still have the pre-draft process in front of us, but he said right now he would tag Mendoza a little bit better than Cam Ward as a prospect. But if we look back to the previous year, he's not close to Caleb Williams, not close to Jaden Daniels, not close to Drake May. And I think a lot of people have pretty much came to that assumption, or came to that conclusion already based off of what we've seen this season, right? A very good quarterback prospect, but probably not an elite quarterback prospect, again, up to this point. When talking about Dante Moore, he said that he likes him a lot. He feels like he has a very high ceiling, plays loose, plays smooth, but he's not ready. He feels like maybe going back to school would be the better option for Dante, and I agree with that, just if I put myself in Dante's shoes. And if the Jets, in the event that Dante Moore declares, in the event that the Jets wind up drafting Dante Moore, and by the way, I think there's a lot of smoke there. I think the Jets actually really like Dante Moore, whether it's this season or in 2027. You know, the Jets kind of gave themselves this flexibility to do whatever they want in each draft, in the event, again, that they want, you know, pertaining to the idea of trading up. In 2026, they kind of set themselves up to where it's like, hey, if Dante Moore declares, we can trade up and go get him. In 2027, you know, if Dante Moore goes back to school, we still have a ton of extra draft capital in that class when you look at value of picks to go up and land him there. We did a whole separate video on connecting the dots between Darren Muji and this Jets front office with Dante Moore. I'll leave that link down below in the description box. Definitely one of my favorite videos that I've done over the last couple of months. But regardless, Brugler essentially said, if the Jets wind up taking Dante Moore in this class, they better have a plan, because the chances of a 20-year-old quarterback with not a lot of starting experience coming to the New York Jets and then essentially saving the franchise, a franchise with not a lot of talent and not a lot of depth, isn't really the smartest plan of attack. So again, in Brugler's words, yeah, there's got to be a plan there for Dante. Now, when talking about SImpson, it's clear that he likes him, but the drop off in that middle portion of, you know, that mid to late portion of the season was real. You know, post Thanksgiving, you know, had the 2 picks against the FCS opponent, the Citadel. One was bad, one was just kind of an end zone heave, but it's still talked about because SImpson's not a turnover prone quarterback, and yet he had 2 against an FCS opponent. You had the Iron Bowl, which was a little shaky. They ended up winning it. Obviously, the SEC championship game, that was just a complete no-show from everybody included. And yes, I am including the coaching staff in that one. But also pointed out, there's a lot to like there. He's 23 years old. There is a chance that he could declare. He thinks Brugler feels like Ty still needs more time at the collegiate level. But that game against Oklahoma at Venables defense, it's going to be a huge test, right? That could maybe shape the optics. You know, if Simpson goes out and bounces back, has a successful round 2 against Venables defense, because the first go round, right? Bama, Oklahoma, the first go round, that kind of felt like the first moment where the snowball starts to go down the hill for Ty Simpson a little bit, right? It's not like Ty completely imploded or anything, and it's not like he's playing, you know, I understand that he's playing for Alabama, SEC, right? You look at the helmet, you look at the logo, you're thinking, okay, there's studs all over the place. And Alabama still has great players. But if we're just being honest, the talent, in my opinion, does not match the production that we've seen, or maybe the hype. I mean, you have multiple wide receivers that drop the ball on a consistent basis. You constantly have issues up front. They are also beat up. There's a small rumor going around that Ty Simpson's currently hurt, and he's playing through an injury, a serious back injury. I don't know if that's confirmed. I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but that's just the rumor right now. And then defensively, it seems like they lose at the point of attack. So if Ty Simpson bounces back against a great Oklahoma defense, you know, that could maybe get his favor going in the other direction. But for me personally, and this is something that I've always said, you know, one game can't be the determining factor between you liking a prospect and hating a prospect, right? I'm down to go all in with this guy, draft him in the first round, or I'm going to completely pass, right? It needs to be the bulk of someone's career, in my opinion. The ups, the lows, how does he handle adversity, just everything included. But regardless, I feel like Ty still needs a little bit of time. If he declares, really, if Dante Moore declares, I do think Mendoza could probably start right out of the gate, right? Pre-snap identification, overall football IQ, post-snap processing, quick release, accurate body type, right? Size, height, arm strength, like it all. Mendoza checks all those boxes to where you don't feel like he's overwhelmed. But in the event that he goes to the Raiders, let's just say, or the Jets, or take your pick on whoever. Again, let's just use Vegas for an example. If they want to roll Geno Smith out there for a season, or up to the point where he's just struggling so much to where they want to make the swap, that would be okay with me. I mean, how many times do we have to hear a former NFL great, a Tom Brady, a Drew Brees, a Peyton Manning, a Cam Newton, an Eli? How many times do we have to hear these guys go on a podcast, go on an interview, something in media, and talk about the importance of having a young quarterback prepared and not throwing him in to a bad situation? Please save. Andrew Luck has been, I mean, he's probably the prime example of that, but he's been very, very vocal about it. You know, like, I just think there's something there, right? When you have all of these literal legends talking about the same thing. I think it was Drew Brees that said, you need 50 starts, college and NFL combined, but a total of 50 starts to have an idea on who this quarterback is. Anything before 50, you just don't know. And in this day and age, in 2025, where you have so many quote-unquote reclamation projects, right? Jared Goff going from the Rams to the Lions, Baker Mayfield going from the Browns to the Panthers to the Rams, now to the Bucks. When you have Darnold bouncing all around, Jets to the Panthers to the 49ers to the Vikings, now to the Seattle Seahawks, factored on top of the quarterbacks that are coming out of college with a lot of experience having instant success. Think of Bo Nix, Denver. I mean, he was, I think, up to that point. I think the new record holder, I believe, is Dillon Gabriel, ironically enough, both from Oregon. But before Dillon Gabriel, Bo Nix had the all-time starts leader in college football. Like, he started so many games. So when he got to the pros, it's like, hey, I can pick up a Sean Payton offense. I can step in and handle business. You know, you look at Jaden Daniels, his success as a rookie. Why? Because he had so many games in college. In other words, is drafting a quarterback at 20 years old, 21 years old, 22 years old, with not a lot of help around you, maybe a question mark or two when it comes to a coaching staff, throwing that QB in, saying, you got to do everything here. Maybe we'll give you one wide receiver one, or maybe we'll have like a good left side of the O-line. That's not going to cut it. Tennessee has lost a ton of games. The Raiders have lost a ton of games. The Browns, the Giants. These teams have lost a ton of games combined. The Jets. But they're not completely devoid of talent, right? I mean, the Cleveland Browns are rolling out a championship-level defense. You know, they made Jerry Jeudy one of the higher paid wide receivers in football. You have Njoku, you have Harold Fannin, you have Quinshon Judkins, you have SImpson at running back, and this team has 3 wins on the year. I mean, even when we look at Tennessee, that's the team that everyone says, or most people say, has the least amount of talent in the NFL from top to bottom. This is a team, again, 2 wins on the season, with the number 1 overall pick in Cam Ward, Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears, Peter Skoronski, J.C. Latham, Kevin Zeitler, T'Vondre Sweat, L'Jarius Sneed, Jeffrey Simmons, and the team is horrible. And so for me, listening to the interview, I think Brugler hit on a ton of great points. I definitely think it's well worth the listen. Again, that'll be linked down below in the description box, but I agree with him. I agree with him pretty much across the board when it comes to prospects declaring, prospects going back, who needs time, who should come out, Mendoza being the QB1. Don't be surprised if it is the Browns or the Raiders getting that first overall pick. And the whole idea of trading up just goes right out the window. I think that is very, very realistic. Unfortunately, right? Like, this is me, and I love Mendoza. I think he'd be a great Jet. I think he'd fit the Tanner Strand offense really, really well. I think he'd be an upgrade over Fields, upgrade over Tyrod Taylor immediately. But just because I feel that way doesn't mean I'm going to come on here and then, you know, subjectively try to find small, you know, cherry pick ways to get the Jets to number 1. I just try to be, you know, as real as possible here. I don't think the Jets will land that first overall pick. If it's the Giants, if it's the Titans, I think there's a chance of moving up. Is that the best plan of attack? I personally don't think so. Some would disagree. That is totally, totally cool, right? That's why I love football, right? Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But at least the argument is there. If it's the Raiders or if it's the Browns, the only way I feel like Cleveland would maybe pass on Mendoza or just selecting a quarterback at number 1 overall, is if Shedeur Sanders plays lights out for the remainder of the season. I mean, I still don't even know if Kevin Stefanski will be back next year. I mean, you take a look at the last, call it 25 games of Kevin Stefanski, the win-loss record, it is atrocious. The Cleveland Browns are one of the biggest question marks right now. Again, championship level defense. You love Jim Schwartz. There's rumors that if the Browns and Stefanski were to part ways, Stefanski would get a head coaching job instantly. He's well respected across the league. Multiple NFL teams love him. But the results are not good at all. I mean, this is a team that's coming off a fantastic draft class. Mason Graham, again, Fannin, Sampson, Judkins, one of my favorite players in the NFL, one of my favorite players back in college, Carson Schwarzenegger, right? And Shedeur Sanders. But the results aren't there. So again, I don't know where the Cleveland Browns are, what they're going to look like by April, late April here. Could they have a new head coach? Could it be Stefanski and Barry running it back? I don't know. But again, if Shedeur Sanders looks fantastic from here on out against these great teams that the Browns have to play, they have to play Buffalo as well. I could see a lot of Browns fans saying, screw taking another quarterback. Let's just roll with Shedeur. He's in limited opportunities. He's proven enough. But if there's maybe 2 good games and 2 bad games, I could see Stefanski, who you kind of feel like never even wanted Shedeur in the first place, just saying, I want Mendoza. So yeah, we'll see how. And then I guess with the Raiders, what are they going to do? Go O-line at number 1? There's not an offensive lineman we're taking with that first overall pick. Matt Noah, Spencer Fana, the Raiders to me, if they land number 1, they're going quarterback. They're not going to go with a wide receiver. They're not going to go with an edge rusher, in my opinion. Could the Raiders trade back? I just don't know how a lot of Raiders fans would feel about that, to be honest. Yeah, they need a lot of talent. They need a lot of help. But I mean, look back at last season, right? Tennessee was a team that needed a ton of talent, a ton of help. And they said, you know what? Nope. We're going to go land our quarterback. Drake May with the Patriots. Jaden Daniels with Washington. We need a lot of help everywhere. Quarterback's looking us right in the face. Let's not overthink it. Let's just take the guy. So we'll see how it works out. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. And as always, go Jets.